Hello, shalom, salam alaikum to everyone on the call. Thank you so much for joining. My name is Muhi Khwaja, and I am the co-founder of the American Muslim Community Foundation. Today, I'm really grateful for each and every one of you joining to learn more about the Interfaith Giving Circle, Confronting Hate, that we've been discussing for quite some time, but finally getting around to bringing more people into the conversation. So I'll start out by introducing myself and then pass it on. And we can try to go in alphabetical order by first name, just so that we know who to popcorn to next. So I was born and raised in Detroit, Michigan, been in nonprofit world since undergrad at the University of Michigan in 2009, worked at some faith-based nonprofits, but also at the American Red Cross for 5 years as a major gift officer. In 2016, I started American Muslim Community Foundation. We focus on helping families distribute their sadaqah and zakat through donor advised funds and giving circles. And then we help nonprofit organizations establish endowments and also do fiscal sponsorship for projects. So since 2016, we've been able to distribute more than $3.25 million. We host 8 giving circles currently. This would be our 9th. We are also concurrently launching American Muslim Women's Giving Circle later this month for Women's History Month. So we're trying to get more into the giving circle space and really excited to talk about this initiative with each and every one of you. So if we popcorn alphabetically by first name, I think that brings up Andrew.
Thanks so much. I was actually just talking to my son, who's 8, whose name is Aaron, about how he's going to have a lot of people accidentally call him in his life because he's going to be the first person in their address book. So nice to meet you all. My name is Andrew Hanauer. I'm the CEO of an organization called the One America Movement. It's an aspirational title. We're working on it. We work with religious communities to address what we call toxic polarization in the United States. And I think in particular, one thing that's unique about us is that we have pretty deep reach within the evangelical Christian community. We often bring together conservative evangelical Christians who have never done interfaith work before with Muslim and Jewish communities. We help congregations address division internally inside their churches or mosques or synagogues, and also across divides in the community. So we're doing all that with sort of the best neuroscience and social science research that we can find. I am originally from California, but I'm in exile on the East Coast, where it is not as warm as I would like it to be. So it's great to be with you all, and I'm looking forward to being part of this. I'm supposed to popcorn, I'm sorry. I think that is Heba? Heba, am I saying your name right?
Heba.
Heba, yeah. I was wrong twice, sorry.
No, it's okay. Most people, it's actually phonetically spelled wrong. A double consonant makes a vowel short, so you're okay. So my name is Heba Maksud. Let's see, where should I start? So I gave up my music career about 15 years ago and got into working with Muslim organizations. Similarities there, I'll explain another time. I do digital marketing and strategy, and I work as a consultant, but before I did that, I actually worked for Zaytuna College for 5 years, which is the only Muslim university in the United States that's actually verified with a lot of the educational institutions. And I worked for one of the largest imams, Sheikh Hamza Yusuf and Imam Zaid, side by side as their communicator and PR person. I also worked for a lot of other Muslim organizations as a consultant, and primarily my role was to help them, come up with strategies on how to present themselves to fundraise. The biggest claim to fame I think I have is that for the last 10 years, I've actually been part of the Sisterhood of Salem Shalom, which is one of the largest Muslim Jewish organizations. I actually started with them when it was just a couple of people, and I've been on the board for the last 3 years. And I'm originally from New York. I live in New Jersey, and I have 2 sets of twins. Oh, okay.
All right.
So who's next? A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Had to be. It's hard to tell like who's next.
I think Jonathan.
Okay. Thank you.
And there was also a question, how old are your set of twins?
Yeah.
Exactly 13 and 19 today.
Wow.
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday
Thank
to
you.
them.
Hi, everyone. Jonathan Horowitz here. It's so nice to be with all of you. I typically live in Boston, but I'm currently down in Maryland, outside of DC, where I grew up. In my day job, I work for a family foundation in Boston, where most of my work is focused on strengthening US democracy, including work on the human element of democracy, the bridge building and social cohesion component of that work, not just the structural side. And in my totally in my personal capacity, I have served for many years on the board of a few organizations focused on strengthening Jewish philanthropy, particularly an organization called Slingshot, which works with Jewish philanthropists in their 20s and 30s, and an organization called the Jewish Teen Funders Network, which runs giving circles for Jewish youth. It's great to be with all of you. Liz, are you next? One of the Liz's?
Sure. Hi, one of the Liz's. Muhi didn't tell us there was going to be homework. I'm like feeling panicked about the whole alphabetizing. So hi everyone, I'm Liz Fisher. I'm from a small town in New Hampshire, and I've lived a lot of places, and I am currently in Brooklyn, New York, where I live now, with my 2 teenagers who I've been complaining about being quarantined with until have I heard that you're doing it with 4 teenagers, and so now I cannot complain anymore. And I'm the executive director of a project called Amplifier that lives at the Jewish Federations of North America. And we work to ignite, strengthen, inform giving inspired by Jewish values, including working a lot in collaborative, collective giving and giving circles. One thing that's a little different about our model versus what Muhi said is, for the most part, we don't usually host the giving circles. We're really much more of a kind of training and education organization, and we help people kind of create their own giving circles that live, independently or in other organizations, and then we provide tools and resources to those giving circles. And we are big fans of the American Muslim Community Foundation, and kind of co-conspirators with Muhi, I think, on a number of things. So we're happy to be here. And I'm so thrilled that all I have to do is pass it to the other Liz.
Thanks so much. Hi, everyone. My name is Liz Weingartner. I'm a philanthropic advisor with Morgan Stanley, and I also lead their faith-based initiative. So currently we have a number of resources for our Jewish clients, which are meant to help lead them through their philanthropy and also their investing, aligning those with their faith. And now I'm leading an expansion of those resources to other faiths, such as Catholicism, Christianity more broadly, and also Islam. And so we're really interested in how to bring those faiths together, find out, how to sell them or pitch them to different clients, and see what the community writ large is doing. So, and I'm based in Boston currently. So hi, Jonathan. Oh, and I'm passing it to Nina.
We skipped, we got an L, we got Lord on the call.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see that. Hi, Lord.
No worries.
Hello. Hello, everyone. My name is Lord Watson. I'm from Birmingham, Alabama. I'm the founder and CEO of the Penny Foundation, which is a community chest that's based out of Birmingham that focuses on closing the economic inequality gap that exists in Black communities. I'll talk about the Black communities. It's not, I'm trying to exclude anyone, but I just want to be clear about who we're focusing on and try to be excellent at it. I think I met Mui and Liz on the panel. Is it in last October, I believe it was?
The homecoming from Community Investment Network. Yeah.
Right. It's been a timeless year, but sometime over the pandemic, we were together on Zoom.
And so, when he first said it, I thought it was a great idea. And so now that I have the opportunity to be on the Zoom with everyone, I look forward to participating.
Awesome. Now we can get to
I
Nina.
can pick with Nina.
Yeah.
Hi. Hi, everyone. My name is Nina Fernando. I am the program director of Shoulder to Shoulder. The Shoulder to Shoulder campaign, we're a multi-faith coalition of mostly religious denominations and faith-based organizations who are committed to addressing the problem of anti-Muslim discrimination. And we kind of see our work in three buckets. We connect, we equip, and we mobilize faith leaders, people of faith, people of goodwill, to be good partners on this issue. And it's great to see some partners that we work with, Tabassum, Ari, and just grateful for this space. So I'm currently based in California, moved during the pandemic while pregnant with my first baby. And I don't recommend doing such, but it's good to be back. I'm from California, so just closer to family, which is really great. So thank you all.
Excellent. I think we have Pastor Trina next. Or sorry, Tabassum. We'll go with Tabassum.
Not even me yet, no.
No worries. So I'm Tabassum Halim. I recently assumed the role of CEO of the Islamic Networks Group, based in California. And I'm actually in Chicago, prefer to stay here for the weather. So I was born in India, raised in and around Chicago. And my background, I'm a CPA by profession. Background is corporate business. And then a few, in the last maybe about 6 or 7 years, I've transitioned to non-for-profit. So it's a different world. It's wonderful to meet all of you, and already started working with Nina. It's just really wonderful. I mean, incredible organizations out there that I'm getting to know.
Wonderful.
And now it's Pastor Trina.
Great, absolutely. Thank you all. So I'm Trina Turner, and I'm the Executive Director of Faith in the Valley. Faith in the Valley, we are a unified regional organizing effort that encompasses city, county, and valley-wide organizing of 5 different entities. We merged back in 2016, but our work is in the Central Valley, California Central Valley in San Joaquin, Kern, Fresno, Merced, Stanislaus, and San Joaquin. And the work of Faith in the Valley is multi-faith, multiracial. It's led by people that's most impacted by the issues. We work in the areas of restorative justice, immigration, housing, environmental justice. Unlocking the power of people to put their faith into action is kind of our mission. And in addition to the work that I do at Faith in the Valley, I'm also one of the 14 2020 California redistricting commissioners. So I am, as I'm listening to all of the powerful work, I'm not quite certain how I ended on this call. I'm thinking, I don't know if they really want me here, but here I am with you for the next hour, still trying to determine what my role. I was trying to scroll through thinking, now, wait a minute, this invite, well, how am I on this call? But we do organizing work in the Central Valley, multicultural, and I am also an ordained pastor in the city of Stockton, one of the staff pastors for a local work there. Thank you. And I don't know if you want to cycle back around, but I saw Ari sneak on as well.
Yeah, it's definitely Monday because we totally skipped over Shazeen. So we went straight to the T's without the S's. So we'll go Shazeen, Ari, and then Saida.
Hi, everyone. My name is Shazeen Mufti. I'm in Southern California in Orange County. I just recently got connected with AMCF, and I've done a lot of interfaith work in my personal life and professional life. probably most notably, I served as an interfaith director for NCCJ, which was around several years ago. In the national structure is not around anymore. There are different bits and pieces all over the country. That was post 9/11. So did a lot of interfaith work at post 9/11. I was born in Pakistan, moved to the US when I was 4, and I'm Muslim, and have a variety of different faiths within my family, my husband and my sister, in-law and my brother-in-law. So I always say we live interfaith. It's not just a matter of working it, because we do have a variety of families within our family. And I've also, as a Muslim, worked in 2 different synagogues, once as a financial director, and am pretty tied in with most of the interfaith community around here. And then also had the pleasure when I was leading a South Asian organization to work with a lot of the interfaith communities around South Asian culture, such as the Hindu, Jain, and Sikh communities as well. So, and I grew up going to Baptist Christian schools, so I know my catechisms pretty well. So I feel like I got my little finger in a lot of different things, and just try to be, a catalyst for change, and to make sure that we all know that we're all the same, and we all come from the same, background of love. So that's me. It's really great to be here and learn so much about all of you.
Thank you. Ari, you want to introduce yourself?
Oh yeah, and my apologies. It must be Monday because something happened and I was not able to join on time. I don't like to do that. I'm sorry I missed the others' presentations. I'm definitely going to do my Googling and my reading for what I missed, because it's from those that I see here, and no, it's a phenomenal group, and a privilege to be here. I work at American Jewish Committee as the Director of Muslim-Jewish Relations, and in that capacity, I oversee the work of the Muslim Jewish Advisory Council, which is a partnership between AJC and the Islamic Society of North America that focuses on advocacy and concrete action on issues in the United States that face American Muslims and Jews. And I grew up in the Orthodox Jewish community, certainly with my fair share of suspicion about the other. Another one of those barriers, growing up in a very thick religious culture that didn't always have room for the other, with like divergent understandings of anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. I would put those 3 into the category of what we kind of label as mutual suspicion. And at the same time that all of that was happening, Muslims and Jews were facing very similar issues in the United States, a rise in hate crimes, barriers to entry in a variety of places, freedom of religious expression issues. So at the same time that there was a deficit of trust, there was all this shared need. And while I see on this group, there are those who are filling the deficit of trust with dialogue, and even some with shared action and solidarity, the model with MJAC, the Muslim Jewish Advisory Council, was legislative advocacy and counter narrative. So legislative advocacy against hate crimes. There's been a number of bills that have been passed with a lot of help from MJAC advocacy. And in terms of counter narrative, being able to show that Muslims and Jews are, along with so many other Americans, integral threads in the social fabric of this country, contributing to the building of this country. And that in fact, when we get together, it's not a threat to any group, faith, ethnic, or otherwise, but actually America is stronger when we work together. And that's been a lot of the work that we've done. There's a lot of specifics. It's a national council, 11 regional councils. I hope we'll get the chance to talk more about it, but that's the broad overview of the work we do.
Thank you so much, Ari. And let's close it out with Sayeda.
Hi, everybody. I'm delighted to be here, and my apologies as well for being late. I had some technical difficulties with, I guess, Zoom and the internet in a public place. Now I'm in my car. That's why I'm not, I'm showing my face through this photo instead. I'm delighted to be here. I'm very keenly interested in Interfaith from the perspective of a grant maker. I'm the executive director of a family foundation of an individual out in California called the Hub Foundation, HUB Foundation. I'm based in New York. We have a number of areas of interest, one of which is interfaith and intrafaith. As you know, as for this particular discussion, we would love to explore and learn, wonderful collaborative ways in which we can make a mark in this field. We are supportive of theological seminary work and finding common ground. And I forget the individual that spoke, the woman, the lovely woman that spoke right before, but yes, love unites us. At the end of the day, we're on our different paths, but coming together to hopefully heal humanity, raise the consciousness, and imbibe the love through our, I would say, different pathways, and elevate the conversation to get to a common place. So thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Thank you so much, Sayeda. So with that being said, I wanted to give everybody a chance to introduce themselves, and we'll definitely get into the why we are all here. And as part of that, I as a leader at a community foundation, and somebody who's just genuinely interested in interfaith dialogue, I think each of us in our backgrounds bring a different perspective, whether it's about pluralism or xenophobia or advocacy, collaboration, learning together. What I like to say, like the kumbaya, right? It's all about making the world a better place. But as a philanthropic institution, we want to push the envelope a little bit further. And what I like to say, put the money where our heart is. So in the idea of a traditional giving circle, they can operate in so many different ways. And since Liz at Amplifier has a lot of great resources, I just want her to share a little bit briefly about giving circles and the impact that they have, the collective idea spirit. And this is the first of what I'm hoping is many conversations, right? We invited about 50 different leaders across the country. We have a good representation here, but I think we also know so many more people, right? This was a brainstorm of like Liz and I saying like who's who and like who should we connect with. So in terms of like organizing committee, pulling more people from other faiths that aren't represented here today into the conversation as well, I think those would be like great actionable next steps for a conversation in a few weeks or a few months or somewhere in between that timeline. But the idea being that, we want to get people together who are passionate about this space to learn about other nonprofit organizations across the country doing great work to confront hate. And I'll let Liz share more on like the giving circle, and then we can come back to the planning document that we had shared in the email as well. So Liz.
Great. Well, thanks, Muhi. So I also just put a link in the chat, and I think actually just to say, like, I feel like Lord is as much of an expert in giving circles as I am, Lord, through your work with the Community Investment Network. So I'll just say really briefly, giving circles are, thanks, Muhi, for sending it in a better format. I think giving circles are really people come together, pool their resources, and make grants to causes that they care about. And they can be done in all sorts of ways, inside institutions, outside institutions, small dollar amounts, high dollar amounts. And there's like a huge diversity of the giving movement. A number of us on this call who are doing giving circle work are affiliated with a new organization that we helped found called Philanthropy Together, which is sort of a network of networks of giving circles. And through that work, Muhi and I have been talking for a long time, I think, for, probably over a year, about are there sort of our shared interest in multi-faith work, our shared interest in giving circles, and how best to bring those together. At the moment, I think that there's a couple of ideas that we'd like your feedback on. Primarily, and that's really why Muhi called this meeting, and Muhi can talk more about this later. The American Muslim Community Foundation is talking about hosting this interfaith giving circle to combat hate, and Muhi can talk a little bit more about that. But I think also more broadly, we're thinking about, are there opportunities to bring giving circles into the work that you're already doing in your institutions? Is there a desire to do some training for your participants, members, stakeholders, whomever they are, in giving circles, as another way, another tool people can have to bring people together, like in addition maybe to dialogue or service, or all the other kinds of tools that you all have in your toolbox. So Muhi, is that a good quick overview?
Yeah, definitely.
Great.
And this is a great resource, the website, and I'm sharing it as well on the screen. And in the planning document that I'm going to put into the chat as well, it's listed as one of the resources there. So really, Philanthropy Together has been a phenomenal resource in talking more about giving circles nationwide. And just as Liz said, whether an outcome from these initial conversations is that you want to establish giving circles in your neighborhood locally, that's fantastic. One of the outcomes that AMCF hopes from this is that we will be hosting this virtual national interfaith giving circle confronting hate. And part of that is because we want to connect each and every one of you with fantastic nonprofit organizations like the ones you represent and ones that you may not know about across the country that we can identify through this process. So, whether it's, you end up volunteering at an organization or donating to a new organization, that's the kind of impact that we're looking to have. And I'll let you go through this site at your own pace as well, but really to kind of just kind of guide the conversation, we want to come up with a shared sense of purpose. We want to come up with whether there's accessible, economical, entry-level donation that gets you a vote in the giving circle, right? Because giving circles are all about democratizing philanthropy, demystifying it, and what we like to also say, decolonizing it. So we're hoping that through this initiative, if there's interest from the people on this call or people in your network, we'd love to come up with what that looks like. We have some giving circles where the entry level is just $50, and we have others that go up to 5,000, and there are others across the country that have larger entry levels. But we're looking to do something that's kind of probably, again, very accessible to most people. And whether the group thinks that that's $100, $500, any amount that's meaningful to someone, there's so many different ways that we can go about it. And those are the types of things that I'd like us to discuss and kind of get a sense of for today's call. So over the next 30 minutes, I'd love for you guys to popcorn in, talk through your thoughts on what you've heard, what is exciting about it, what you think could be done better, and just let's talk about whether this is even necessary. Do you think this is something that should be pursued? So really just looking for open participation. Again, just something to be mindful of. If you feel like you're talking a lot, step back. If other people aren't talking enough, encourage them to participate. We want everybody to have a voice here. So we will open it up to discussion.
I would love, this is Sayeda Jaffrey from the Hub Foundation. I would love to see if we could evolve into doing a purposeful project to advance something together, hypothetically, if interests are aligned. We come from so many different backgrounds, but I'm sure we all add value in different ways. And if we could advance a particular agenda or project, or I would say just organize ourselves in a way that's very impact oriented. Not to say that we don't need to deliberate and have real discussion and unpack many different concepts, but if this is, I'm not aware of this audience in terms of the participants on this call in a thorough way, so pardon my ignorance, but if we can have like a kind of timeline of engagement, of seeing whether or not there are synergies, and then if they're not there, that's absolutely fine, but if there are, we could actually advance the collaboration.
Got it. Thank you.
Muhi, I think it might be useful if you could just say like another couple sentences about like what you see the role of the folks on this call being. Do you see them helping plan something, participating in something, being, advisors behind the scenes, like particularly as it relates to the Giving Circle that you want to launch at AMCF?
Yeah, I think, participatory and networking, like, all the people who are passionate about the causes that you represent. And if you think that they would like to be part of something like this, once we kind of form more of the purpose and how it works and what it does, then invitation to your network to participate in this. And when it comes to the marketing, we can say, XYZ organization are coming together to establish this giving circle, right? So it's something that everybody is participating in and will be part of. But when it comes to the hosting aspect, AMCF can manage the logistics of collecting the funds, of sharing, if the group wanted to request an open RFP process or maybe a private RFP process, that then only members can nominate a charity, right? So we can work through all of those logistical pieces and share the docket of LOIs that come through, so that people can make informed decisions together and vote on which projects they would like to welcome to present to the entire group. And some of the giving circles do it more in a participatory way, where you have a vote and then to represent a charity. Then those charities are invited to submit the LOI. Then there's a vote, and then the top 3 will automatically get funding, but then based on presentations to the entire group, will be placed in first, second, or third order. So again, like AMCF can manage that aspect, but what we're really hoping for is for each of you to help in the planning process, developing the purpose, reaching out to your networks after we kind of get more meat on this, to then say, hey, there's this initiative that we're helping launch. And I think that's kind of where we see the most help needed currently.
Hey, this is Andrew with One America Movement. So I guess as a nonprofit, I'm happy to be helpful in whatever way. I mean, I think this is really important work, obviously, that we need to do. As an organization that views its work as addressing hate, obviously this is the sort of thing we'd love to apply for funding for, but also we do a lot of work with the neuroscience and social science behind why people are divided and why those divisions morph into violence or racism or anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, et cetera. So if there's ways that the research and science aspect can be helpful to how you do the criteria, whatever that looks like, we're happy on that front. And then of course, as an organization that works with a lot of conservative Christians who don't normally do interfaith work, if we can be helpful in terms of how to reach beyond the choir, so to speak, I'm happy to be helpful too. But I always feel sort of disingenuous saying things like that, because what I'm doing is offering to help you design a fund that makes it more likely that you'll fund my organization. So just putting that caveat out there to be totally clear.
Yeah, and I think, you know, that's the challenge with all of us representing nonprofits is like, you know, we can develop the criteria and we can come up with certain parameters. We could say, you know, only organizations with revenue under X amount or something like that, right? But the idea being that whoever the members end up being from this group really have the opportunity to nominate a charity, right? So the power lies within the people who are participating in the giving circle. So again, whether that minimum is 100 or 500 or whatever number, anybody who is a participant in the giving circle would be able to nominate a charity.
This is, oh, go ahead. I'll pause.
Please, Liz.
Oh, thank you. This is Liz from Morgan Stanley. Just building on what Andrew said, I love the idea of the value add of an educational component. So not just coming together to sort of source and review grants and make them together, but really having that proposal of we're going to give you knowledge to advance your grant making. So I think that that would bring a new group of funders to the table. So I would echo making sure we have that component.
Definitely. And a lot of the times what happens is these giving circles, you know, they may have one meeting that is like their deadline to make their membership dues by. Then the next meeting is to review the LOIs that came in. But then there are maybe one or two other meetings throughout the year as well that are definitely engaging discussions around philanthropy, around education, around this interfaith work that we're all in. So there will be definitely other components beyond just the giving and distributing aspect, but informing more thoughtful conversation around the issues and everything in between.
Yeah. Liz, your follow-up on Andrew touched on something that struck me as well. I mean, I was thinking that as you are, Andrew, it would be great to be on someone's menu of options to give towards. And that speaks to one of the issues when we're talking about adjacent organizations and working in the same space, is like this sense of scarcity rather than abundance. And I think the idea of bringing us all together here, even to be involved in like a project, Liz, like what you mentioned, where we're coming together for education. Maybe it's even creating a map of the confronting hate space, right? Like we come at this from different ways. Sure, there's probably overlap, but if we created this whole map, there are going to be some funders who are more interested in combating hateful attitudes. There are going to be some who are more interested in working with government, law enforcement, et cetera. There's going to be some who want to respond to victims, some in bullying and education. Bringing people together to create the map not only allows me to know about the work of others, and if I come across a funder to say, hey, you might like their work because they're working in this space, I'm over here, it's a trust building exercise as well. I could see that being really useful. I mean, a lot of us know each other, but being engaged in this way together, especially as funders, you have the power to bring people to the table who probably do work together, but maybe not as often as we should.
Yeah, and when you talk about funders as well, like, you know, beyond individuals committing to support in this, I think there's a real opportunity to talk to mainstream philanthropy and say, you know, we're creating this coalition and each of these organizations are involved, and that maybe even open up for potential of grant funding to support this giving circle to even match funds from all of the participants and do more things beyond that. So I think that's also an angle that could be of interest to engage mainstream philanthropy as well.
Maybe I'd like to say I'm really intrigued by the conversation and trying to just kind of follow some of the thought processes. So for Faith in the Valley, we're one of the PICO California federations associated with Faith in Action. And in it, one of the piece part, with a couple of things. We speak a lot about trying to diversify the funds that we do have. And I know most of us are not involved in giving circles. And so for me, outside of participating in the Latino Community Foundation, it's where I first learned about a giving circle, and it wasn't that long ago. So number one, there's something to be said about ensuring that we're talking about giving circles and we're presenting it so that more people are aware of it. And just as you outlined it today, how easy it is to get involved, number one. Number two, we our federation, PICO California, I know a lot of you are familiar with us, PICO at least, talk about diversifying, but we don't take those first steps to do it. And this is a way to begin. So I'm interested in the education part of it for other organizations like mine. Funding is always wonderful, but we keep going back into the same space of receiving a lot of our funding from some of the same sources. And then when we talk about confronting hate, us being multiracial, multi-faith, there is an element that we struggle with that can be maybe tied into this conversation and what we work around, that says that's one thing to aspirationally want. And then with boots on the ground, working with different organizations, a lot of times you run into issues without necessarily access to the right words to break through, I guess, kind of invisible barriers to do the real work of interfaith, do the real work. And so I'm excited and hopeful that the education piece can also include what does make for strong multi-faith, multiracial work. Where are there the lines that we cross without necessarily naming, and how do we improve on that so that we're able to do this easier and easier? I don't think there's a whole lot of, we always think it's a lot because it's us, but I think we still are a little bit of the minority of people that's truly trying to work together, as opposed to I'm working together as long as it works for me. And then I start to, you see, it's the kind of split. And so I'm talking and saying a lot, trying to talk myself into what I want to land on. I'm excited about the conversation, but man, my mind's going 1,000 directions. I'm thinking, yes, on the giving circles, yes, on the education piece, with people that really can say that's helpful and that's not, so that we can further refine the dialogue and be effective and impactful in being able to bring others into the same space. And yes, on diversifying funds and helping that be a norm for more organizations and entities like mine as well.
That was a lot to unpack, and I really appreciate you sharing all of that, Trina. That's exactly what we're hoping to do today, is really at the ground level, see where all the commonality is with everyone, and see what we can pursue. So I think definitely that's something that we would want to include.
I'm trying to just listen and absorb from all of you that are experts in doing this work. I'm not an expert, and we fund some of this work, but I'm not a practitioner. I guess I'm going to submit an opinion that could be unpopular, but that's okay. I'm okay being unpopular. I would just offer, I think that the work of organizing funders and bringing in more funders to do the work of addressing hate and educating to them to that goal is a very powerful goal and would require a lot of attention, because there's many different ways of going at doing that work that often are actually in tension with each other. So if that's the primary goal, how do we organize more philanthropy to do and more individuals to give to addressing hate? That in itself is a pretty profound goal. I also think there's a pretty profound goal in the work of interfaith giving circles, like just the actual act of bringing people together across lines of faith and difference to do something together through giving and learning together about each other's faiths is a pretty profound educational exercise, maybe absent the goal of addressing hate, because maybe those people, I'm thinking particularly about young people, might say, let's organize together about what our faiths teach us about engaging in climate work or serving the elderly in our community. And it could be just that in itself is a powerful act which does address hate by bringing people together to do acts of goodness and giving. And I just wonder about collapsing that and saying that those two goals are going to both be met here is putting a lot of pressure to accomplish a lot in one effort. So that's what I'm wondering about.
Yeah, you raised some really good points, Jonathan. Anyone have some thoughts on that, or where you think the biggest strength lies, or even Ari with MJAC, like, is this something that you guys have tried doing to support some of the advocacy work as well, or where have you seen some challenges?
Thanks for the specific question. I mean, I'm interested to hear what others have in mind, but I think the point is well taken, Jonathan. The hate space is one thing. The idea of interfaith giving as an act of trust building, whatever form it takes, whether it's community development, hate, or something else, I think it is worth keeping those two separately. I mean, it's overlapping in the sense that when you build trust and solidarity between communities, it's some form of building those weak ties that can become strong ties that strengthen our communities and ultimately are a barrier against hate, but they're not the same thing. I was thinking that it is such an interesting model to bring to people. Like, I work for an organization, not MJAC, but AJC, that has a pretty high barrier to entry to be a board member. So that's good because it means we have stability in terms of the cash flow coming in and in the work. But it does mean that there are lots of people who we could be working with that don't have a seat at the table. If we started working on interfaith giving circles, would that allow us to bring in a younger generation of people who maybe aren't as established? As you said, the amounts can be flexible, so one could aim it towards the group that one wanted to bring in. I do think it's worth keeping them separate. The idea of educating towards interfaith giving circles as a trust builder is phenomenal. That's one of the wheels that's turning here for me.
So one of the things I've been thinking about in terms of this project, which is in addition, I think, to the circle that AMCF is launching, is Philanthropy Together, which I mentioned is this national network that Latino Community Foundation, which was mentioned, Community Investment Network, which Lord is part of, AMCF, Amplifier, we're all part of, runs these periodic trainings called Launchpad, which are about how to start giving circles. And one of the things that they're doing is doing them now more with some more sort of in specific cohort groups. And so I think it might be interesting to think about a launch pad for interfaith people who want to start interfaith giving circles, either for organizations that are already doing some sort of multi-faith work and want to add a giving circle component, or for individuals who might want to do this. And I think that the giving circle curriculum is pretty solidified, and sort of the best practices and how to do cross-faith, multi-faith, interfaith, however you want to talk about it, kind of work could really come from a group of advisors that were, you all and people like many of you who have a lot of expertise in that. And so I think that's an additional approach that could really infuse the field with more people. I think, Ari, both in an organizational level, and Jonathan, like you're talking about, maybe people come together on interfaith issues, but really they want to fund arts and culture or the environment or hunger or something that's not necessarily specifically about this.
Yeah, I definitely echo Liz's thoughts and say everybody should check out Philanthropy Together, their Launchpad initiatives. They're usually quarterly, if not more regularly, but they're really great resources on how to manage and operate and host, or just start within your own network, a giving circle. I want to give an opportunity to Nina, Hiba, Tabassum, anyone else, Shazeen, who haven't chatted yet?
I mean, I can just chime in here. One of the challenges that we have, and speaking specifically to being part of a Muslim Jewish organization, is first of all identifying the right people in our community. We seem to really have this underground network, but not a real resource to be able to reach out to the right people. It's been our biggest challenge because in the Jewish community, it's very established. It's that there's a process and how you go about trying to raise funding. But in the Muslim institutional community, it's actually been a lot more challenging. So it's one of the things that I've been sort of addressing and trying to reach out. And the other thing is that you find that a lot of Muslim organizations in particular are still sort of like in this fundraising for operational sustenance, as opposed to being ready to work with other interfaith organizations. And that's something that I think it's just a consequence of us being young. Still, even though we've been in America for a while, the bulk of our community and our institutions are really actually young. And also just being able to have the right person audience to be able to pitch what you're trying to do, and to get the right people on board. So hearing from people who have sort of like done this before and can advise and give strength to how we can go about doing that would be helpful. And I think once we conquer that, what I've seen with the Muslim community is, once you've actually communicated what you're doing, they're very, very generous, and there's a lot of money there. A great example would be LaunchGood, the crowdsourcing website. I've seen, I'm sure Chris Muhi, and just in seeing how every year he's developing, it's sort of like a form of a giving circle, because it's basically like, here's the case we're presenting, how many people want in, and then you just see like literally, I saw $1 million being raised from the community in 24 hours, and so the money is there. It's just a matter of like how we communicate and how we find the right people. I think is our biggest challenge.
Sure.
This is Lord. I
Yes.
apologize for not being on the screen, but I'm driving. It's almost pickup time for the children. But I wanted to share a little bit about my journey. As you think about these questions being raised. When I first joined Giving Circle, first started the Giving Circle, none of us knew what we were going to be granting to. We decided at first to start the circle. And so whatever our impact, whatever we think we want to do, it really comes out of the people who are starting it and the spirit in which they do it. Because from there, then all the other things that you do come out of it. And that way you don't feel this pressure. Because I think that if we start out people feeling pressure to do X, Y, and Z, then the desire to achieve outcomes and goals and things like that comes to the forefront. And there's just tension and things that I think that something like this might get sidetracked, and we don't want that to happen. I think that the number of people who want to be a part of this throughout the nation will speak volumes. More so than the dollars that we give, is the people in modeling and practicing our faith and working together. I think will make this Giving Circle unique and powerful and impactful. Before we give any dollars, and then once we give dollars, we're just supporting the things that we are modeling for people.
Right.
I don't know if that helps or not, but that's kind of how when I approach Giving Circles and talk to you about Giving Circles, it's the who, and then comes the what.
Totally.
I'll share. I am learning a lot from this conversation. I'll be honest to say that the Giving Circle is new to me, but my wheels are turning and thinking creatively, about this and what that looks like for our work. Though our national coalition partners at Shoulder to Shoulder are quite large, we are a small organization, and then at the same time, we're also supporting the work of organizations that are local around the country, and even leaders that are doing this work, addressing anti-Muslim discrimination in some capacity in places where they might be the only one, or just serving in really much smaller communities. And so the mapping idea, I really love for those doing great work in different capacities around the country, as well as those funding the work, and just having an understanding of the web of connections that are already there, but then also the gaps, and being able to understand better, connect better, collaborate better, as well as and thinking about the beauty of the concept of coming together to give, not just what are we fighting against, confronting hate, but also what are we fighting for? What is that vision that we're collaborating to build? And so those are just, I don't know, some ideas that are bouncing around in my mind.
Thank you for sharing, Nina. I know we're right at time, but I want to make sure, this is something that we want to continue the conversation on. And what I will do is I'll summarize the conversation, I'll share the recording, and invite the others who were not on today's call to also participate in another doodle that will hopefully be maybe closer towards the end of this month. That way it's not too much time, but just enough time to kind of maybe recruit some more people, share the idea and the concept. If any of you are interested in putting more meat into this document in those next 3 weeks, just let Liz or I know, and we're more than happy to work with you on it. But that is, hopefully you got a better idea of what we're trying to do and how we're trying to go about it. This is something that I would love to have launched before the end of this year. So there's definitely plenty of time. But I think it's critical to have more voices in the process that are reflective of all faith communities. So if you know of other people who'd be interested in this work, do share the summary email that I'll send out. So thank you everyone for joining, and we'll continue the conversation for sure.
Thanks for inviting us.
Thank you.
Of course.
Nice meeting you all.
Likewise.
Meeting you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.